The story begins with a man named Desai walking alongside his partner beside a river, planning to end their lives together so they can remain united forever. However, before they can jump, they're suddenly struck by Truck Kun. Desai wakes up in a church, thinking he's in the afterlife. A girl named Annette informs him that he's still alive and explains that he's been summoned to another world as a hero. She was sent to guide him, but Desai is disinterested. He realizes their double suicide failed. When Annette starts explaining his mission, she's shocked to see a bottle of sedatives in his hand, realizing he's still trying to end his life. She heals him, but he tells her to stop interfering. He's just looking for a place to die. He continues taking pills, and Annette can't understand why someone chosen to save the world would want to die. Desai tells her he never asked to be chosen. She reveals that Truck Kun is an otherworldly vehicle used to select people for reincarnation. Those who are unhappy are given a second chance in a new world. But Desai angrily tells her that the truck interrupted what he considered the happiest moment of his life, and that no one has the right to decide if someone is happy or not. As he smokes, Annette is stunned that someone who came from such misery wouldn't want a fresh start. Thinking his powers might cheer him up, she checks his stats but is horrified to see he's incredibly weak. His stat screen is red, and he still appears poisoned despite her healing. She finds no special abilities in him, and concludes he might have been brought to this world by mistake. Desai laughs bitterly, saying it fits. He's always been a failure, no matter the world. She pleads for him to stay, warning him that he'll be killed by monsters in his current state, but he doesn't care. Annette reflects on how she once felt excited to guide heroes, but her experiences with selfish ones drained her enthusiasm. Still, Desai feels different. Before he leaves, she asks him to choose a profession, but he says he's already a writer by nature. As he walks away, she falls to her knees, her face flushed, convinced that he's the one she's been waiting for. Meanwhile, Desai stumbles upon a sign he can't read and muses that he probably won't find a cafe anytime soon. A system voice keeps updating him on his progress, but it only adds to his despair. Then, he sees a girl named Tama, trapped by a monster tree. Instead of helping right away, he coldly observes how beautiful dying girls look and asks if he can write a story about her. She begs him to save her, so he tries, but fails to reach her and gets trapped himself. Tama explains that the tree drains the life force of those it captures, meaning they'll die soon. Desai is oddly excited by this, but suddenly the tree withers away and dies. Disappointed to have survived again, he's told by Tama that the tree absorbed his poison instead of his life force. She invites him to her home in gratitude, while Desai thinks of Saki, his partner from the other world, and wonders if she was also brought here. Tama introduces herself, but he keeps talking about Saki, and for the first time feels a renewed sense of purpose, to find Saki and die together. Back at the church, Annette prays for Desai's safety. To her surprise, he returns, with Tama. She runs to greet him, but upon seeing Tama, she becomes flustered and jealous. Desai asks if she knows Saki, which makes Annette panic, realizing she may not be the only woman in his heart. Annette insists on joining the party. When Tama reaches for Desai's hand, Annette swats it away. Tama catches on quickly. Annette is in love with Desai. Annette claims she only wants to protect Desai because he's the weakest otherworlder. Tama is shocked to learn he's from another world, assuming that's why he's strong. Annette disagrees, knowing the truth of his weakness. The two girls bicker, and when Tama mentions that Desai saved her life, Annette gets more jealous. Desai, annoyed by all the fuss, climbs into a coffin and says to wake him when they reach town. When Tama gets angry that he calls her the wrong name, they drag his coffin to town, wondering if he's dead. Annette assures her he's just resting. They arrive in the city and decide to meet the king. At the castle, King Thomas and his daughter Charlotte welcome them. Thomas offers them a place to stay if they share tales of their journey. He asks Desai if he has any pleasant memories. Desai casually talks about sleeping in a coffin, which the king misinterprets as a threat. Annette quickly tries to smooth things over by pointing out Charlotte's beauty. The king announces she is soon to marry and introduces two candidates, Gomez and Otto. Due to increasing monster activity caused by the Dark Lord, Thomas is seeking a successor, and one of these men will marry Charlotte and become the next king. But Charlotte hasn't chosen yet. Thomas asks Desai and the others who they think is the better choice, but Desai refuses to answer, saying it's not their decision. He bluntly adds that Thomas is unfit to be king and walks away. Annette and Tama apologize for his behavior, explaining he's from another world. That night, Annette wakes up and finds Desai unable to sleep. He reveals that he's never been able to sleep peacefully. She asks about Saki, but before he can answer, they realize King Thomas is sleeping in the same bed. This leads to another argument. Desai leaves the room and meets Charlotte, who is watching a lake. He tells her the view makes him want to drown himself. She's shocked by his dark mindset, but he senses that she too is troubled. Charlotte confides that she doesn't know who to choose between Gomez, a strong soldier trusted by her father, and Otto, her childhood friend who's always supported her. Desai reflects on how different she is, caring about her father, while he always brought pain to his own family. The next day, Thomas gathers everyone to witness Charlotte's decision, but in a stunning twist, she says she wants to die with Desai. After talking with Desai, Charlotte realizes that Otto only stayed close to her because he wanted someone to listen to his songs. He never truly cared about her. She also says she can't marry Gomez because he smells bad. Thomas urges her to make a proper choice, but Charlotte snaps, calling him a fool and saying she never wanted to get married in the first place. She explains that no one ever cared about her feelings, except Desai. Suddenly, Gomez transforms into a monster, revealing his true identity. His goal was to become king and offer the kingdom to the Dark Lord. He assumes Charlotte saw through his disguise, but she simply repeats that he smells terrible. Gomez begins attacking, blasting the soldiers away. Meanwhile, Annette faints after hearing Charlotte say she loves Desai. Tama tries to wake her but fails. Realizing the danger, Tama grabs Annette and jumps away, attacking Gomez. Otto sings a song, which Tama mistakenly thinks is a magical buff, but it turns out he just wanted to perform his new composition. Gomez charges, lands a hit on Tama, and prepares to finish her off. Desai intervenes, asking Gomez to kill him and Charlotte first. Gomez accepts and charges, but Charlotte, in tears, says she wants to protect the kingdom. Desai pushes her out of the way. Gomez is about to strike, but Annette summons a barrier just in time. Gomez's horns shatter against it, and Tama lands a powerful blow, launching him out of the castle and into a lake. Afterward, King Thomas apologizes to Charlotte for not respecting her wishes. Charlotte becomes queen, and Desai's group continues their journey. Annette and Tama worry about Charlotte, but Desai believes she'll be fine. She made her own choice, but also admires those who find strength to live. Tama gets hungry, so Annette suggests they take a break. Desai emerges from his coffin, asking if it's time to eat. Annette offers him bread, but he wants boiled tofu, so she decides to look for it in the next town. They talk about Tama's hometown, and Annette says they'll get there in a few days, but they must stop at the Zeden temple first. She explains that otherworlders arrive at one of 4 temples before they begin their mission to defeat the Dark Lord, but Desai isn't interested in that. His only goal is to find Saki. Annette is relieved, as she doesn't want him to risk his life. Tama teases Annette, suggesting she's in love with Desai. Embarrassed, Annette insists she just wants to help him. He gave her hope when she'd lost it. Tama wonders what would happen if Saki is actually Desai's lover, then starts crying, saying she wants to know the truth. Tama worries the temple might not accept her because she quit her job to follow Desai, but she reveals that the temple's head priest is her friend. She had her familiar deliver a resignation letter, but the creature, a mischievous little monster, is seen chewing on Desai's head. When Tama scolds it, it spits out the undelivered letter. Frustrated, she yells at it, but Desai calms them down and names the creature Mellow. Suddenly, a dragon appears, a girl named Walzaria, having tamed the beast. She warns them that more monsters are nearby. She sees Desai's coffin and assumes he's dead, but he gets out. Annette calls him a weirdo from another world, but Walzaria grows furious. She declares she'll kill all otherworlders and attacks with dark magic. Annette tries to block the spell, but it breaks through her shield. She notices a mark around Walzaria's neck and realizes she's the Dark Lord. Walzaria's power is overwhelming, and they can't even move. She prepares to strike again, but Desai steps forward, offering himself to save the others. She stabs him, believing he's dead. However, Desai gets back up, saying he can feel the hatred within her. He tells her he understands how she feels. His words scare her, and she flees with her dragon. Reeve and Mello carry the injured group to the temple. There, Annette asks the priestess Isa to treat Desai first. By the next day, Desai has fully recovered. But then he drinks poison again, saying he's recovered too much. Issa is shocked that Annette quit her job to follow someone like him. She says otherworlders always abuse their powers. Another one named Caro appears, boasting about his money-making ability. But Issa quickly drives him off. She claims they're all like that, selfish. But Annette defends Desai, saying he's different. Issa tries to convince her to stop following him, but Desai interrupts, asking for money to buy drugs. Issa gives him some gold, but believes he's already ruined Annette. When Issa asks what his powers are, Annette explains he has none, but he still protected them from the Dark Lord. Issa is shocked. She says the Dark Lord was already defeated 7 days ago. Annette tells Tama what Issa said. Tama is relieved the Dark Lord is gone, but she wonders who Walzaria was. She notes that Desai also arrived 7 days ago, just when the Dark Lord fell. It makes no sense, since otherworlders are only summoned to fight the Dark Lord. If he was already defeated, why was Desai brought here? Desai becomes depressed, realizing he can't even write about his experiences in this world. When Annette asks if he's written about their first meeting, he says no, which makes her cry. Desai longs to feel the same thrill he once experienced from Walzaria, so Annette decides to cheer him up by taking him shopping. She ends up buying him a massive suit of armor, just in case they're attacked. She then tells him to stay put while she gathers the rest of their supplies. While he's waiting, Issa finds him and urges him to stop traveling with Annette, believing he'll only make her unhappy. But Desai replies that it's Annette's decision whether she stays with him or not. Suddenly, another otherworlder named Suzuki makes a public announcement in town, declaring that since the Dark Lord is already defeated, and the otherworlders risked their lives, they will now rule over the people. Unsurprisingly, no one supports this idea. Caro, another otherworlder, tells Suzuki about how Annette had treated him kindly. Suzuki, angered, pets Annette's head, causing her to fall to her knees. Tama is shocked, and Caro explains that anyone Suzuki touches becomes his slave. When Tama tries to stop him, Suzuki enslaves her too. Issa tells Suzuki that the town will never accept his rule, so he commands his wolves to destroy it, intending to build a new kingdom over its ashes. The wolves set the town ablaze. Thomas attacks Desai, but the armor Annette bought protects him. She tries to break through it but is knocked out by a flying metal fragment. Desai gently places her in a barrel to keep her safe. Issa then arrives and tells Desai that Suzuki was once a weak man, but his powers have corrupted him. Desai asks where Suzuki is now, and Issa says he's at the church. Although she doubts Desai can face him alone, she agrees to accompany him. When they reach the church, Desai pulls out a bottle of poison. Issa is relieved, assuming he has a strategy, but is shocked when he drinks it instead. She suggests ambushing Suzuki from behind, but Desai walks straight in through the front door. Inside, he tells Suzuki he wants to write a novel about him. Suzuki assumes it'll be a story glorifying his conquest, but Desai says it will be about how he became consumed by power and greed. Angered, Suzuki orders his wolves to attack Desai, but Desai ignores them, calmly writing in his book. Issa jumps in to defend him with her magic, but she's quickly overwhelmed. The wolves shoot fireballs at Desai, but Mello, the little monster, uses his helmet to reflect the attacks back at them. Suzuki summons his largest wolf, which bites Desai, seemingly ending the battle, but the wolf instantly dies, poisoned by Desai's body. Seeing this, Caro panics and flees. Issa demands Suzuki surrender, but he commands Annette, still under his spell, to fight them. She grabs his knife and stabs Issa. Issa doesn't want to fight back and tells Desai they should retreat, but Desai insists that Annette isn't weak like Suzuki believes. Suzuki mocks him, thinking the spell is unbreakable and Annette will always be his slave. However, as she tries to kill Desai, she hesitates. He reminds her how he gave her hope when she was lost. Annette, regaining her will, stabs her own leg to break the spell. Issa heals her. Furious and defeated, Suzuki tries to end his own life, but Desai stops him. His novel isn't finished yet. Suzuki reveals that in his previous life, he was bullied and considered suicide, but never had the courage. After being summoned to this world and granted power, he was praised at first, but when people began mocking him again, he used his abilities for revenge. Desai thanks him for sharing his story. It's what he needed to finish his novel, even if it isn't a masterpiece. A magic summoning circle appears beneath Suzuki, and a beam of light returns him to his original world. Issa realizes Desai has gained a new skill that allows him to send people back to their own worlds. Annette wonders if Desai's true mission might be to deal with the corrupted otherworlders. After that, Issa gives Desai a new coffin. and Annette thanks her for all her help. Issa tells her that Desai has a vital role to play in this world, and the path ahead will be difficult, so Annette must support him fully. Issa wonders if Suzuki will continue living the same miserable life back in his world. But Desai says it's up to Suzuki now. It's his story to write. Later, Issa travels to the town of Pop, where she sees a priest named Wolf drinking. He grumbles about how hard his life is, complaining that he's always dealing with wars and that he hates the way demi-humans smell. Another priest named Elton scolds him for being rude. Wolf apologizes and explains that Elton is the first non-elf to become a priest, and he's even risen to the rank of archbishop. Elton says that a person's race doesn't matter to him. He's seen elves who don't behave honorably. This offends Wolf, who angrily demands to swap jurisdictions with Elton, since Elton's region is always peaceful, while his is constantly troubled. Cardinal Miller arrives and asks everyone to sit. He apologizes for calling them in while they're busy, but he needs reports from each of their regions. Before they begin, a girl named Arya arrives late. She apologizes, and Miller introduces her as Annette's replacement. Arya claims she has nothing to report, but Miller reminds her that Charlotte has just taken the throne, something she'd forgotten. Elton greets Arya and reports that things are going smoothly in his region, thanks to the Pope's authority. Wolf also reports that he's managing, though Miller mentions rumors of trouble with the dwarves. Wolf brushes it off, saying such conflicts are common. Issa then shares the recent events involving Suzuki's rampage. Miller reveals the true reason he called this meeting, to discuss the Otherworlders. He explains that with the Dark Lord now defeated, the Pope has decided to seal the magic circles that connect their world to others. Wolf is relieved that they'll no longer need to deal with troublesome Otherworlders, but Miller shares alarming news. The 7 Otherworlders who defeated the Dark Lord have now seized control of his lands. Everyone is shocked. The Pope, who believed the Otherworlders were divine saviors, had treated them with unconditional kindness, but now they've turned against him. Miller says some cities are descending into chaos because of rogue Otherworlders, and they can't ignore Walled Delia, the Dark Lord's daughter, either. Elton is stunned that the heroes have become enemies. Wolf fears that if these 7 work together, they could become more dangerous than the Dark Lord himself. Arya knows how powerful they are, but Issa reveals that Desai has a special ability. He can send Otherworlders back to their original worlds. The Pope enters and asks Issa to tell him more about Desai, believing he might be their only hope. Meanwhile, Anan and the rest of the group arrive in a town to rest. Tama is excited they'll get to sleep in real beds. The system announces she has leveled up thanks to her intense training, but she's frustrated. Most of it came from dragging Desai's coffin around. They meet a boy named Nier, who offers directions to an inn and says he can give helpful information in exchange for money. He explains there's a group that assigns weak parties to powerful Otherworlders to protect them. Tama is visibly uncomfortable. She's had a bad history with Otherworlders, but Nier insists they're meant to save the world. He offers to introduce them to a hero for a fee. Tama refuses, but Annette pays him immediately. Tama is shocked, asking if she knows how much she just gave away. Annette shrugs it off, saying Desai's safety is worth it. Nier assumes they're transporting a dead body, but is stunned when Desai climbs out of the coffin. They tell him Desai is a hero too, but Nier doesn't believe them. He takes the money and says he'll bring a warrior, asking them to wait at the inn. That night, while Annette waits for him to return, Desai tells her plainly that Nier's not coming back. The inn receptionist overhears and asks if they gave him money. When Annette says he promised to bring them a hero, the woman informs them that Nier has never even met an adventurer. Annette is devastated to realize they've been scammed. Desai, curious about the boy, listens as the receptionist explains, Nier is an orphan who survives by tricking travelers. She laments that if heroes really existed, they wouldn't allow someone like him to live such a sad life. Meanwhile, Nier is ambushed by 3 men who rob him of the money he just stole. He shouts that his Otherworlder friends will protect him, but the men reveal they're Otherworlders too. They're angry he's been using their names for scams and decide to punish him. One prepares to kill him, until Desai suddenly appears. One of the attackers analyzes Desai and dismisses him as weak, but Desai welcomes the attack. As they strike, they realize Desai's health is increasing, not decreasing. Terrified, they flee. Nier, overwhelmed, looks up at Desai, and Desai smiles, happy to see that Nier finally looks like a child again instead of a hardened adult. Then he simply leaves, without untying him. The next day, the group prepares to continue their journey. Desai looks exhausted, and Annette jokingly asks if he was with a woman. He silently climbs back into his coffin. Nier shows up and Tama demands their money back. Nier says he did promise to bring them a warrior, so he'll join their party himself. As they travel, Nier becomes disturbed by Desai constantly talking about dying, and is even more surprised that no one else seems to care. They eventually arrive at Tama's homeland, where they're stopped at a checkpoint. Tama says she'll get them in, but the moment the guards see her, they arrest everyone. In jail, Nier assumes Tama must be a criminal. Desai is thrilled, thinking they're going to be executed. Nier picks the lock, but Desai complains, saying he ruined the moment. They're quickly caught again. They're brought before King Siberian and his minister Briard, who accuses them of kidnapping the princess. Annette is confused, but Tama steps forward and reveals that she chose to leave on her own. The king realizes she's his daughter and says he'll only free the group if she agrees to stop her reckless behavior. She reluctantly agrees and promises to act like a proper daughter. Briard then allows the party to leave. Later, Desai, Nier, and Annette eat at a restaurant. Annette and Nier are in good spirits, but Desai is depressed because they weren't executed. As they talk about Tama, a girl named Fawn overhears them. She used to work as Tama's servant. Desai realizes she knows about Tama's past and asks her to share it, intrigued by what kind of life the mysterious princess lived. Meanwhile, Tama reflects on her friends when she notices a strange man outside the palace. Suddenly, the man uses his powers to launch an attack. King Siberian confronts him and asks who he is. The man introduces himself as Kibara, one of the heroes who defeated the Dark Lord. When asked what he wants, Kibara calmly says that he intends to eat everyone. Siberian soldiers rush to attack, but Kibara uses his ability to devour them. Disgusted by how bad they taste, he says he's specifically craving the flavor of a young demi-human woman. Siberian orders his men to fall back and prepares to fight Kibara himself. He strikes with his lightning palms, but Kibara easily shrugs off the attack, revealing his body has become nearly indestructible since he ate golems recently. Siberian prepares to use his ultimate move, vowing to defeat Kibara in a single blow, but Tama interrupts before they can clash. Kibara becomes excited at the sight of her, eager to devour her too. Tama offers to join the fight, but Siberian stops her, saying she can never take the place of her brother. We cut to Fawn, who shares Tama's backstory. Tama once had a twin brother named Leon, the heir to the throne. However, both he and their mother died in a tragic accident 10 years ago. This left King Siberian emotionally broken. To comfort him, young Tama cut her hair and tried to take her brother's place, but the gesture only deepened the rift between them. Back in the fight, Siberian calls Tama a poor fighter, but she lunges at Kibara anyway. As Kibara tries to eat her, Siberian pushes her out of harm's way, but ends up losing his arm in the process. Kibara mocks him, saying he can't use his ultimate attack now. He taunts Tama, pushing her into a rage, but before she can react, Briard knocks her unconscious and carries her away. Elsewhere, Desai thanks Fawn for telling Tama's story just as Briard arrives with Tama, saying they had to flee the palace after the attack. The group soon sees a massive explosion and realizes Siberian has been defeated. Kibara announces to the people that he's now their king and claims he'll rule well, only to immediately contradict himself by declaring he wants to eat women and children. A man threatens him, but Kibara eats him too, then decides he'll just devour everyone. As people try to flee, monsters block their path. Kibara tells them there's no escape. Desai, watching this, calls Kibara insane. Still, he's intrigued by Tama's story and wants to see how it ends. He urges her to do something and continue writing her tale through action. Later, Tama wakes up at Fawn's home, confused. She rushes outside, and Briard explains that Kibara has taken over the capital and is eating people. Tama insists on stopping him, believing it's her duty to protect the king. But Annette reminds her of the tragedy that took her brother's life, saying people love the royal family and would lose hope if she died too. Annette then reveals they have a secret weapon to fight otherworlders and sets off with Desai and Nier toward the palace. At the palace gates, 2 ogres stop them and threaten to kill them, but Desai surprises them by requesting to be eaten, thinking it would be a glorious death. The ogres are confused but decide to grant his wish. The group ends up in a dungeon again, and Annette begins to cry, feeling hopeless. Desai tells her to calm down and reveals he saved a lockpick. He asks Nier to use it to escape. Meanwhile, Kibara lounges in the throne room. The ogres arrive to report Desai, but they're suddenly knocked out. Tama has arrived. Kibara gleefully tells her he's been waiting. In a flashback, Tama watches her brother Leon train as Siberian pushes him to become the next king. Tama wants to train too, but Siberian tells her to act like a proper princess. Disheartened, she returns to her room where her mother Laama gently scolds her. Tama admits she hates her father for not letting her pursue martial arts, but Laama urges her to listen. Back in the present, Kibara reveals he used Siberian as bait and prepares to fight Tama. He doesn't want to devour her yet. He wants to have fun first. He attacks with the same lightning palms Siberian used, knocking Tama into a wall. She recognizes it as her father's technique. Kibara explains his gluttony power, which allows him to gain the skills of anything he eats. Meanwhile, Desai's group moves through the palace. Annette is surprised that Desai actually had a plan. She thought he really wanted to die. They reach Lama's room, where Desai finds a locked drawer. He asks Nier to open it, and inside they find Lama's diary. Back in the throne room, Kibara keeps using Siberian's techniques to overwhelm Tama. He mocks her for being a weak fighter. She remembers asking Leon why he trained so hard, even though he didn't enjoy fighting. Leon told her that even though he wasn't naturally talented, he trained hard because he wanted to be strong like their father, and that he thought Tama had more talent than he did. Inspired, Tama gets back on her feet. Siberian, wounded, pleads with her to surrender, saying she can't win, but Tama insists she won't give up, just like Leon wouldn't. Kibara laughs maniacally, saying he's never been so excited. He thinks eating her will be the greatest moment of his life. In another flashback, we learn that Kibara was born into a wealthy family, spoiled with everything he wanted by his parents. Kibara shares more of his past, explaining that although he had everything he ever wanted, he still felt empty inside. Craving something real, he stabbed one of his friends, hoping it would make him feel alive, but it didn't. He felt like he was trapped in a cage, so he ran away from home. On the streets, he saw a homeless man happily enjoying a meal and, filled with jealousy, beat the man up. He wandered the city, convinced no one was more miserable than him, until a truck suddenly hit him, signaling the end of his boring life. Back in the present, Kibara finishes his story and declares that he can now do whatever he wants. He prepares to devour Tama, but Desai steps in and insults his story, calling it boring. Kibara tries to kill Desai but can't, realizing something inside him won't allow it. Annette explains it's because Desai has the power of the storyteller, a divine gift that can banish otherworlders. However, Desai refuses to use it on Kibara because he thinks Kibara's story is too dull. Enraged, Kibara unleashes his full power in a shockwave, knocking everyone back. He decides to kill everyone before eating Tama. Tama, seeing her friends in danger, blames herself for everything that's happened. She asks Desai what she should do, and he hands her a book he wrote, saying it's a story dedicated to her. As she opens it, magical pages fly out, and Annette realizes Desai is activating his ability. Kibara attacks Annette, but she defends with her shield while telling Tama to focus. Desai tells Tama he understands her now, that she spent years hiding her feelings to please her father. He reminds her that after Leon died, she tried to replace him, but Siberian misunderstood her and became cold. Desai says she's forgotten who she really is, and he urges her to remember what her mother once told her, that her life belongs to her. Tama remembers Lama's words, how her mother promised to convince her father and told her not to worry, saying he just wants her to be happy. Back in the present, Desai tells Tama she has a choice, to be an ideal princess, or try to replace her brother, or to simply be herself. He reminds her she's an adventurer, and that truth unlocks her hidden power. Tama's body begins to glow, and Siberian sees that she's awakened the divine beast crest. A flashback shows that Leon knew about her crest, but Tama made him promise not to tell their father. However, Siberian overheard them and locked away her power out of overprotectiveness. Now, he realizes his mistake. Kibara, having absorbed Siberian's severed hand, believes Tama still can't win, but Desai says that even in despair, people can find hope. Encouraged by everyone's cheers, Tama charges at Kibara. He tries to use Siberian's ultimate technique against her, but she stops him and counters with a powerful headbutt. Then, she unleashes the true version of her father's technique, the King's Fang, defeating Kibara. Her crest fades, and she collapses. Annette begins healing her, praising her for fighting so bravely. Meanwhile, Desai gives Lama's diary to Siberian, who realizes Desai must have read it without permission. He wonders if Desai expects to be punished, but instead, Siberian thanks him for saving Tama. Briard shows up and notes Tama used the king's fang, but says it's still not perfected. Suddenly, Kibara's body mutates. He reminds everyone he was one of the 7 heroes who defeated the Dark Lord, and reveals his secret. He ate the Dark Lord's remains and gained his powers. Now, he claims to be the strongest being in the world. Kibara charges up a massive dark spell, but Delis appears and cleanly decapitates him. Kibara recognizes her as the Dark Lord's daughter and mocks her, saying her father tasted delicious. Enraged, Delis blasts him with a devastating energy beam, wiping him out. Everyone is stunned by her overwhelming power. Desai appears beside Delis and casually asks if she feels better now. She wonders how he's still alive and threatens to kill him next time, then flies off with her dragon. Desai watches her leave, fascinated by her sadness, and decides he wants to write her story next. The next day, Fawn thanks Desai's party for saving the capital. They prepare to leave, but without Tama, who chooses to stay behind to support the king. In her room, her father visits her and tells her she doesn't belong in the palace because she doesn't act like a princess. He urges her to join Desai's party, saying he doesn't need her to protect him, but he wants her to come back after finishing her journey.